So us watch collectors and enthusiasts at times can be a very passionate bunch, to say the least. And with passion can come some strong conviction, and sometimes almost to a fault where it can create some pretty toxic type of behaviors. So what I wanted to do is have some fun with this video, but also just have an analysis of maybe some of the toxic things that goes on in watch collecting, and look at 8 different types of watch collectors and enthusiasts that I don't think myself or you should ever be. And before we jump into this video, for one, this is my opinion, so you might not agree with some of these points. For me, as someone who interacts with thousands of enthusiasts on a day-to-day basis, I maybe have a different feeling about these things, and maybe I get a little bit more exhausted compared to other people, but I get a sense of what the mass watch market is. Also, this is all to be done in some good fun. I'm not trying to personally attack people with this, more just an assessment and calling out some toxic behavior, because if it is toxic, then I do think it should be brought to the attention of the group at large. And before we jump into this video, we did add a new curated assortment of Seiko products to our site, including some new Seiko 5 sports models, 3 new variations of speed timers coming in with a slightly larger case compared to the original, wearing like a 40mm on wrist and a variety of different color options with a solid movement on the inside. Also added are some new Presage models such as the SRP E41 and the SRP J13, with some striking new dial colors done in a level way above the price range. Also another model, strangely within the Presage collection, we have these bezel models that walk the middle ground of sport and everyday. Now this is just scratching the surface of what we have available on TeddyBaldassarre.com, so if you want to see these, check them out in the description down below and click around on our website. But let's begin with number 1. The first type of enthusiast and watch collector to never be is the person that is afraid to wear their watches. Now, this might seem like a crazy concept for some of you, but for others, it is manifesting itself in different ways. One, you have the people that are going to buy a watch and just never wear the thing. They'll buy the watch, put it in the safe. Maybe it's a luxury product. Maybe it was a little bit more expensive than what they probably could have afforded, and there's that element of it. They're afraid of, or paranoid of it maybe getting stolen. Or they're one of those people that just hates any of their watches from showing a sign of wear. Wearing a watch and letting it be a part of your journey is what it's all about, in my opinion. And a watch without that is lacking both character and meaning. That's what I think really makes a watch a watch. You have to wear these things. If you don't, I think you're basically just a hoarder of these like shiny little objects that you just look at. I mean, that's just a weird kind of thought to think about. So if you get a scratch on your watch, I'm not saying you need to celebrate it, but that's a part of your story. That's a part of your journey. Who cares? Just wear your freaking watches. It's ridiculous. Your watches are way more resilient than you even imagine. People with dive watches afraid that, oh no, there's a scratch on the center link. Boo-hoo, let the thing get scratched up. It's okay, that's what a watch is intended to do. Let it be a part of your journey. Wear your watches, unless you're trying to collect like George Daniels or something like that, but that's not most people. We're talking about watches that generally everyone is maybe looking at, or they're more popular. If that's you, start wearing your watches, come on. Now the second type of watch collector or enthusiast to never become, that is the type of person that spends every dollar on watches to a point where it causes financial strain. Now the key part here is the second part, which is referring to the financial strain. If you can afford the watches you buy and you spend a lot of money on watches, but it's not causing any strain on your life, I think that's all fine. But we have this weird subset of our just culture of watch collectors where we almost like encourage or maybe just kind of kid about the fact of creating this financial hardship in our lives. Oh, my bank account's gonna be sweating today, you know, looking at your empty wallet, I don't have money for groceries. Like, you look at some of the memes, like, yeah, I mean, we're joking around, but at the same time, I think for some people, this is a reality. It's kind of sad. We have people out here buying Rolexes, but they don't own a bed frame. We have people with their coaxial movement being in good shape, but the axle on their car has seen better days. We go over to our watch enthusiast friend's house and ask what's for dinner, and it's ramen noodles again. And that's not by choice. No watch should cause financial burden on your life, create strain in your relationships. It's not worth it. Watches are meant to be enjoyed. A watch should be a part of a journey. It should be a part of a life that is fulfilled. It's not going to fulfill your life. Don't be this person. I have been guilty of this in the past. I did have a Rolex on my wrist driving a car that probably needed some service and was honestly maybe less expensive than the watch that I was wearing. So if this is you, just be smart. Don't be destroying your life over watches. It's not worth it, trust me. The third type of collector here is the snobby elitist. Now this is someone that is going to hate anything that is not high end and is a gatekeeper to a point where they will go out of their way to hate on anything that falls short of their standard. And their standard honestly is not usually reasonable. It's usually not well-founded. It's more of just putting down other people. And where this gets kind of ugly is it's more judgmental based on like socioeconomic status than it is the watches themselves. And this just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. If you are trying to get your own approval and self-worth through a watch, I mean, honestly, you're kind of a pathetic person in my opinion. I don't think of a watch makes the person, it's the person that makes the watch. And I know that's kind of a cliche thing to say, but a great watch is not gonna make up for a garbage human being. And if you're somebody that will just look down on other people based on them not being to your standard in terms of watch collecting, that's sad, and I think that's pathetic, honestly. There are some amazing watches in a wide variety of price ranges. People are in different paths and stages in their journey. It's important to recognize that, and I try to be really real even when putting together just content on this channel. I understand that there's a pipeline of people that will go into a G-Shock and one day own a high-end luxury watch. It happens all the time. I was just at a watch event, somebody was talking about, hey, I saw one of your videos reviewing Junghans, I just bought this Lange, and there's the Junghans to Lange pathway is a real thing. So you talking down on people, it's just discouraging, it's gatekeeping, and it's not good for this hobby in general. Everyone needs to start somewhere, and there, quite frankly, are some great watches, even if you are starting to collect more heavy-hitting pieces, to go back and look at a $300 watch. For example, looking at those Seiko 5 GMTs from Seiko, I'm somebody that's handling hundreds of watches on a weekly basis, and some of them are very, very expensive. But I see that, and I get very excited to take a look at it. Don't be a snob, don't be elitist. Simple as that. So now number 4, we have the enthusiast that hates on everything they can't afford. To me, this is almost as damaging as the snob in the other direction, because this is almost a form of snobbery in itself. A snob, to me, is somebody that has a certain taste and makes that the taste of everybody to a point where anything else can't be enjoyed. One thing I notice is that people identify with watches in general. They almost see their self-worth attached to the watch that they can afford. And if you have this mentality, it's a dangerous game. You're never going to be happy. You're never going to be fulfilled. And this is where you get almost vengeful in your way of going at other people based on your own outcomes of your life. You start to look at people that have nicer things than you compare yourself to them, and you take your day out on them. I don't think that's a healthy thing to do at all. Just because you can't afford something, and even for myself, I am confronted with watches all the time I can't afford. I am around collectors all the time that have way crazier collections than I have. But that's okay. That's an all right thing, and you can be happy for them. There's this concept known as tall poppy syndrome. It's basically social leveling. And if you look at a field of poppies, and if one gets taller than the other, they're going to want to pull that one down. It's taking the light away. You're allowed to enjoy things that you can't personally own at this period of time. That's okay. Watches are an aspirational pursuit anyway, so most cases you see something, you have to make it a priority if you want to even own it in the first place. Some of these are very expensive when you're talking about luxury products. And to take it one step further, you can actually be happy for other people even though they have something that you don't have. I know it's a crazy concept in today's day and age, but you can actually have some joy for other people in getting something that they want. It's all right. Now for the next individual here, we have the flipper. And I don't even know if I can call this the type of collector. Let's first distinguish what I don't think a flipper is. If you're somebody that buys watches and sells watches ultimately at some point because you fall out of love with the watch, you gave it a shot, your taste changed, that's natural. Also, if you're going into your collecting and thinking about retaining value in your watches, just so the one day if you do decide to change your mind and maybe you fall out of love with that watch, you at least have some value there. I think that's totally fine, especially as you're talking about spending, say, tens of thousands of dollars on a watch. That's a big chunk of money you're talking about. What I'm really speaking to is somebody that will go into a transaction, maybe deceive a dealer specifically, or wait in line, talk about say the moon swatch, and all of their intention is to get that watch so that they can immediately sell it for a nice return. I don't like this for two reasons. I think the number one important reason why it's not good is it hurts the general watch enthusiast. There are plenty of other people, and the reason why you can flip that watch for more is because people want that watch. If you're somebody that's not going to be a owner of that watch and enjoy that watch on your wrist, you're just manipulating a market, in my opinion. If you're just going in, have no intention of owning it, and then selling it. That hurts other people that are in line for that same watch that would be, frankly, better owners than you. In addition, it also is not really great for even the authorized dealers. One thing that's happened, because there are so many flippers, brands are telling, especially those higher end brands that are very selective about who gets their products, they're telling retailers to look out for people that are flipping. And if you sell to the wrong person, that could get your account in trouble, say with brands like a Rolex and Patek Philippe. And there's been instances, if you sell too much to flippers, that they will even shut down your door. With more and more limited drops and just the way that brands are selling watches, this becomes a difficult thing to navigate. But I think the flipper is one of those ugly parts of watch collecting, and a collector I don't think you should ever really be. Our next type of collector or enthusiast to never become is the endless window shopper. Now I get it. Watch buying is going to be a meticulous type of buying process. You want to take your time. That is completely fine. But one thing that ends up happening at times is people sometimes will show up in a retail environment. They will go on the forums and ask all of these questions, just drag on a salesperson, drag on a person that's listing a watch for sale, and will ask all these questions, but then they have no real intention to buy the watch. If you're in a store environment, you have a person that is, making money on commission, you're taking their time, you're handling these very expensive products, and then when it gets time to maybe buy something, you just walk out, never to be heard from again, just wasting everybody's time. If you don't like the product you're looking at, but if you just come in, maybe you're the type of person who'll take a nice wrist shot, put it on your Instagram, make it seem like it's your own watch that you own, you're one of those people that will go into an AD, you're just wasting everybody's time, and it's inconsiderate of those around you. Also, on forums, this is something that happens all the time. People are trying to, buy, sell, trade watches in different places on the internet. You ask questions about, hey, can you send me a picture of the case back? Maybe show me a shot of the movement. Could you send me a picture of the watch like this? What's the service history? Ask like paragraph long questions. And then the person that's selling that watch sends all this over to you. They're trying to be a good seller and, create that nice trust in the buyer-seller relationship. And then there you go, just off, and you're never to be heard from again after that person put in, if not minutes, maybe hours in getting all the information ready for you, and you just wasted their time. How I see this is almost like going to your local car dealership, taking a test drive in all the cars and just going and asking really pointed questions, wasting the salesperson's time, and then never having any intention to buying the watch. Don't be this type of person. It happens more than you would think in watch collecting. Now for this next type of collector and enthusiast, I would say it's not as insidious as some of these others on the list, but it still is probably one of the most pervasive in all of watch collecting, and that is the tunnel vision collector and critic. Really what I mean by this is somebody that is unable to recognize that there is a taste outside of their own. They will just dunk on everything. They'll hate on anything that is not to their liking. They'll also talk about things like, oh, every watch brand just makes the same old, but then they'll have like a hypocritical stance when a brand does do something different, like say like a Resonance or a Bel Canto, Octo Finissimo, and they'll just dunk on that. It's almost as if they can't find any satisfaction in anything good to talk about. Of course, you don't have to just like everything. That's not what watch collecting is about either, but it's just this unawareness of the market and how large the world is, and you can only see things through the small lens and vantage point of your own personal taste. Quartz watches suck. Every watch should have a date. No watch should have a date. The Navitimer's too busy. I don't get it. Why do pilots need this? This dial's too minimal. I have relatively conservative taste when it comes to watches. I'm more traditional in what I like, but at the same time, something like that Rolex puzzle piece watch that we saw at Watches and Wonders, it's not for me. I am never gonna buy it. I think it looks ugly, but I'm happy that it exists because it shows that brands are doing something different, especially a brand like Rolex that is very much same old in terms of the releases. It is refreshing to see it, even though that it's not refreshing for me. I don't think there's enough people out there that recognize that there is a larger market than themselves and will just hate on everything out there. This is how you get lack of creativity in an industry that desperately needs it. And even if you don't like a watch, understand maybe there is a market for it. If there's things to maybe provide criticism about, absolutely fair, but just to throw out things that are to your own personal taste and to say that's the reason why it's bad is probably short-sighted and not good for the industry at large. And for the final type of collector and enthusiast, we have the unrealistic expectations / can never be satisfied. Now this is two-sided. Number one, there is the person that thinks that there's the perfect watch out there. As you start to collect more, you recognize, and maybe some people don't, but at least I recognize that there is no such thing as a perfect watch. There's always gonna be a small thing you maybe don't like. There's gonna be things that are not to your perfect standard, but that's okay. Watches are almost like people. There are small little gives and takes that come with them. And there's always gonna be an element that's not going to be perfect, but that's all right. And the quicker you can recognize that, I think you'll be a better collector. People get caught up in the concept of an exit watch. If I get this, I'll be fulfilled. You're almost just chasing this never-ending point of fulfillment because again, a watch is never going to be perfect. It's not going to fulfill you. That's one side. Then the other side is just the unrealistic expectations. If it's not filling the void of your self-worth, it's the potential standard that you think will come with a watch that is just not realistic. People expect certain watches to be perfect. They expect them to be running with perfect time, running like a top. They should have the perfect finish, no blemishes whatsoever. There should be no sign of human intervention on these watches. They should be made perfectly. But that's just not the case. And what I've also noticed is many people that are especially shopping in the under $1,000 tier have some of the highest standards for this. If a watch has a glaring defect, that's one thing, or it's not operating properly, that is absolutely warranted. You can be upset. But some of these small little details, maybe something like accuracy, for example, that's one of the big ones, expecting their Seiko 5 to be running at perfect time, like plus or minus 2 seconds a day, like within cost parameters when they spec it out at like minus 35 to plus 45 seconds a day, you're going to be disappointed. Expectations are in many ways a key to happiness. If your expectations are too high or more likely unrealistic, you're going to be let down. But all right guys, that's my video here today looking at 8 different types of watch collectors that you should never become. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Again, this is all in good fun. Are you one of these types of collectors? Or maybe you've shown, I don't know, some tendencies of these types of collectors in the past? Leave a comment down below. Or have you noticed another type of watch collector that is either annoying or not good for the community of watch collecting at large? Leave a comment down below as well. Also, definitely check out TeddyBaldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of 30 brands, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. How we're able to fund all of our video production and content creation is through selling watches. So if you like what you're seeing here, you want us to create more content, you're in the market for a watch, we'd love to have your business because it allows us to keep doing what we're doing here. But guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.